Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy Legend, and I am back with another video. You already know what this is just by looking at the thumbnail. What if Naruto was a solo badass part 8? If you guys like this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. The like goal for this video is going to be 5 likes as usual. But without further ado, let's just get into this intro so we can start this what if. さすがは仮にも影の名を背負う忍びたちだ。ならば内浜田らも全力で応えよう。おかげも何も全てが無駄になることに。The room was silent, save for the soft ticking of a clock on the far wall. Faint sunlight bled through the blinds, casting angled slashes of gold across the bed where Naruto and Kushina sat. Not quite touching. There was space between them, but it was the kind of space that hummed with everything unsaid. Naruto sat forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, fingers loosely interlaced. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, always more honest than he intended, were shadowed. Kushina sat upright beside him, arms loosely crossed over her midsection, her posture rigid. She didn't look at him, but her body was turned ever so slightly in his direction. They had both cleaned up. The sheets had been changed. The air smelled faintly of lavender and something sharp, like antiseptic. But the weight of what had happened still lingered, thick and unmoving. Naruto finally broke the silence. His voice was quiet but steady. You know we can't keep doing this, right? Kushina exhaled slowly through her nose. The breath was almost a sigh, but not quite. She didn't flinch, didn't snap back, just closed her eyes for a short second. I was wondering when you'd say that. He glanced over at her. You were? She nodded. You're smart. You were never going to ignore it forever. There was a pause. Then she added, softer. But I don't want to have this conversation. I know, he said. Neither do I. For a moment, they just sat there. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't entirely hostile either. It was more like standing at the edge of something, both of them unwilling to step forward but unable to walk away. Kushina turned slightly to face him. Why not? She asked. We both know how it felt. You didn't hate it. Don't pretend you did. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. It's not about how it felt. Then what's it about? She challenged. Morals? Guilt? People's opinions? He didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped to the floor, lips pressed into a thin line. I'm not saying it didn't mean anything, he said at last. But it shouldn't have happened. And it definitely shouldn't happen again. Kushina's jaw tightened, but her eyes were calm. You're thinking too much, she said. You're always trying to make sense of everything, weigh the consequences. But this wasn't a strategy. It was human, and it was real. He met her gaze now, and there was pain in his eyes. That's the problem. What if more people find out? Ino already did. Who's next? What happens when they start talking? When it spreads? Kushina gave a small dismissive shake of her head. Let them talk, she said. They're not us. They don't know the things we've seen, what we've been through. They've never lived our lives. He stared at her. That's not enough of a reason. She leaned back slightly, her eyes narrowing. Then maybe we give them one. Say we're trying to Rebuild the Uzumaki clan. Say we're keeping the bloodline strong. At that point, who's going to argue? Naruto looked away, lips parting slightly in disbelief. Mom, that's not a reason. That's an excuse. She didn't argue, but she didn't retract it either. After a long pause, he asked, "What if Mikoto found out?" That gave her pause. She looked at him in surprise. He would even bring Mikoto into this. But then her expression hardened. Mikoto has no room to talk. She's a pure-blood Uchiha. That clan has been breeding in circles for generations. If she wants to preach purity and propriety, she can look at her own family first. Naruto blinked. That wasn't the answer he was expecting. It wasn't even the deflection he thought she might use. She was serious. And maybe that's what unsettled him most. He saw it clearly now. Kushina hadn't truly been with anyone else since Minato. No one had reached her since his death. No one had gotten close enough. And Naruto, he had Minato's eyes. He had his face, the same shade of hair. Maybe she didn't see Minato anymore when she looked at him, but that's where it started. And he couldn't ignore that. She loved him, that much he believed. But the foundation of that love felt unstable, wrong. And yet, she was here, fighting for it, fighting for him. He didn't have the heart to say what he was thinking. Kushina finally turned her head away, staring out the window with a quiet intensity. "You're going to walk away from this, aren't you?" He didn't answer. That was the answer. The next day, the wind blew gently through the trees near the outskirts of Konoha. The streets were quiet this time of day, especially so far from the village center. Naruto sat alone on a wooden bench, just a mile from the Shinobi Academy. From here, he could just barely see the roof of the building rising in the distance, a familiar structure that once held simpler memories. But today, there was no comfort in it. He stared ahead but didn't really see anything. His mind was far away, 2 days back to the mission that still haunted him. 13 children, victims, orphans, experiments, traffics. Whatever they had been, they weren't meant to live like that. And when the time came, he made sure they didn't suffer. He ended it cleanly and quietly. Mercy. That's what he told himself. It was mercy. But the sounds, it still echoed in the corners of his mind. He barely noticed the sound of approaching footsteps until someone sat down beside him, close, too close. He turned his head and saw Gurren. She didn't say anything, just sat down, eyes forward, posture relaxed. Her thigh brushed lightly against his. Not by accident, she knew what she was doing. Naruto's gaze flicked down briefly, just for a second, then back to the trees. Gurren said nothing. She didn't need to. Her presence was steady, warm, and somehow that made the silence a little easier to bear. She watched him from the corner of her eye, her mind racing. There was so many things that she wanted to say, but none came easily. Instead, she opted for something small, something soft. "I like your jacket," she said with a slight smile. "It suits you, makes you look strong." Naruto blinked. "Thanks," he murmured, barely above a whisper, eyes still cast toward the academy in the distance. Undeterred, Gurren reached down and brushed her fingers lightly against his hand just for a second. When he didn't pull away, she took that as encouragement. "I saw you spar a few days ago," she added. "You're impressive. You always have this focus. It's kind of captivating. Naruto gave a short, humorless chuckle. That focus is just noise. Keeps other stuff out. She frowned at that but didn't push. Not yet. Over the next few minutes, Gurren tried to engage him. Small comments, light touches, subtle nudges. But Naruto's responses remained hollow, half present. He was there in body, but his mind was still trapped somewhere else. Eventually, the weight of it all pushed her over the edge. With a sharp sigh, she turned fully towards him, frustration evident in her tone. "Okay, I suck at this," she said bluntly. "I don't flirt. I don't do subtle well, and I've never been good at hiding what I feel, so I'm just going to say it." Naruto finally turned to her, surprised by the sudden shift in her tone. "Would you go on a date with me?" Gurren asked, her voice steadier than she expected. "I mean it. No games, just you and me. A real date." Naruto's eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The silence between them stretched. Then he looked away again, and the sadness that clouded his expression returned. "You don't really want that," he said quietly. "You think you do, but you don't know what you're signing up for." Gurren's brows furrowed. "Try me." Naruto sighed. "People see me and think they know who I am, but they don't know what I've done or what I've been through. I've made choices that haunt me, and if you knew the whole truth, you'd probably look at me the same way she did." Gurren tilted her head. "She?" "Ino," he admitted. "We were close until she found out about something I had kept from her. She looked at me like I was filth." Naruto stood up as if to leave, but Gurren grabbed his hand, firm, decisive, and pulled him back down. "You can't just say something like that and then walk away," she said sharply. "You don't get to decide how I feel. You don't get to tell me what will change my mind." Naruto looked at her, his breath caught in his throat. "So, tell me," she said. "Tell me what happened. All of it." There was a long pause. Then Naruto sighed. The sound low and pained, and he began to speak. "There was someone in my life, a woman named Kushina, my mother, and eventually things got complicated between us. I never wanted it to be that way, but it happened. I tried to stop it. I've been trying. I know it was wrong, but me and her ended up having a sexual kind of relationship for a long time." Gurren didn't speak. Her expression didn't shift. She simply listened, her grip on his hand steady. "And then there was the mission," Naruto continued, voice cracking slightly. "2 days ago, Moegi was with me. We found a trafficking ring. There were originally 15 kids, but 2 of them died. They had been tortured, broken, no more than 10 years old, the youngest being 5. And with the circumstances they were dealing with, the seals placed on them in case they escaped, they begged me to kill them." Naruto's voice shook, but he forced himself to finish. "So I did. There was originally 15 when we got there. 2 of them died past the perimeter. Remember those cursed seals that I was talking about? They were placed on their spines, and their deaths broke Moegi. The wind rustled the leaves above them. Naruto went quiet, waiting, bracing for the judgment, the disgust, the horror, but it never came. Instead, Gurren squeezed his hand. "You tried to end something you knew was wrong," she said softly. That's not weakness, that's strength. And what you did for those kids, you gave them peace when no one else would. That doesn't make you a monster, Naruto. That makes you a hero. He blinked rapidly as tears gathered in his eyes. He turned his head, wiping them with the sleeve of his jacket, but Gurren saw it. "Thank you," he whispered. "I didn't know how much I needed to hear that." Gurren smiled. "Well, now that we've gotten that out of the way, can we go on that date now?" Naruto laughed, a small, real laugh, and nodded. Yeah, we can." And for the first time in a long while, the weight on his shoulders felt just a little bit lighter. Late that afternoon, Naruto walked through the village, bathed in warm hues in the late afternoon sun, the sky painted in soft streaks of gold and lavender. Naruto walked beside Gurren in a comfortable silence, their fingers interlaced, lightly at first, but firm enough that neither seemed willing to let go. They didn't talk much on the way. They didn't need to. The rhythm of their footsteps, the breeze that played with Gurren's hair, and the occasional glance between them said enough. As they turned down a quiet residential street, Naruto finally broke the silence. "You sure he's okay with this? Me being there?" Gurren smiled at him, eyes glowing with warmth. "Yukimaru likes you. You were gentle with him, talked to him like a person, not a mission. He remembers that." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck with his free hand, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "He's a good kid. Deserves better than what life gave him." They arrived at her apartment, tucked near a quiet grove of plum trees. Gurren unlocked the door and stepped inside, Naruto following just behind. "Yukimaru," she called gently. "You ready?" The sound of soft footsteps echoed from the back room. A moment later, Yukimaru emerged, already dressed in a clean shirt and pants, a small green satchel slung around his shoulders. He looked up at Naruto and offered a shy smile. Naruto smiled back, crouching slightly to be at eye level. "Hey, Yukimaru, ready for an adventure?" Yukimaru nodded. "Where are we going?" Gurren stepped in, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We thought you might like the festival by the river. Lanterns, food stands, maybe fireworks later." The boy's eyes lit up, the kind of innocent excitement that felt like a small miracle after everything he'd been through. "Really? With both of you?" Naruto nodded, reaching out to ruffle his hair. "Yeah, all three of us." Yukimaru's smile widened. At the evening festival by the river, the three of them walked together through the village, drawn by the soft hum of the festival music and the smell of grilled food. As they approached the riverside, the atmosphere shifted. Children ran by with glowing sparklers, elders chatted beneath lantern-lit canopies, and vendors called out to passer-byers with cheerful energy. Gurren had changed into a pale lavender yukata, adorned with tiny crystal patterns along the hem, her hair tied up with a ribbon that matched Yukimaru's sash. Naruto, slightly overdressed in his usual black Anbu reinforced jacket, tried to blend in the best he could. It didn't help that people occasionally turned to look at him with a mix of awe and wariness. But tonight, none of them approached. Maybe they saw the look in his eyes, quiet, guarded, and gave him space. Yukimaru tugged lightly on his sleeve. "Can I try the takoyaki stand?" Naruto looked at Gurren, who nodded with a soft smile. "Let's go." They spent the next half hour sampling street food, winning trinkets at game booths, and letting Yukimaru drag them from one end of the festival to the other. Naruto didn't smile often, but when he did, When he saw Yukimaru laugh, or when Gurren slipped her hand back into his, it was real. Later, the three of them settled near the edge of the riverbank, where the lanterns would be released. Gurren laid down a small blanket she had packed, and Yukimaru sat between them, already yawning from excitement. "Want to release one?" Naruto asked him, holding a delicate paper lantern etched with plum blossoms. Yukimaru nodded sleepily. Naruto lit the candle inside with a small flare of chakra. Together, the three of them guided the lantern to the water and watched it float away with dozens of others, drifting gently alongside the surface like tiny stars on a midnight river. As the moment quieted, Naruto sat back down and looked at the sky. "I used to think peace was a lie, something people told themselves so they didn't fall apart." Gurren glanced at him. "And now?" He looked at her. "Now I think maybe it's just fragile, but not impossible." She didn't answer with words. Instead, she leaned over and kissed his cheek. Her lips brushed the corner of his mouth. It wasn't fiery, it was just desperate. It was tender and honest. He met her eyes and saw something fierce and patient there. "We don't have to name this," she whispered. "But I'm not letting go either." Naruto exhaled softly. "You're stubborn." Gurren smiled. "So are you." They turned their attention back to the river, Yukimaru resting against Gurren's side and breathing slow and steady. For a few moments, it was peace. Later that night, outside of Gurren's apartment, Naruto stood outside her door, hands in his pockets, head tilted back to look at the stars. Gurren stood beside him, Yukimaru already tucked in for the night. "This was nice," he said, voice low. "It was real," she replied. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Tomorrow, I'm going on an assignment. Anbu business." Gurren's smile faded slightly. "Dangerous?" He nodded. "Always." There was a beat. "Be careful," she said, stepping forward. "Not for me, for Yukimaru, for the people who still need you." He looked down, eyes heavy with something unspoken. "And if I don't come back?" She met his gaze without flinching. "Then I'll make sure your story doesn't get buried. But you will come back." There was another pause. Then she rose on her toes and kissed him, soft, lingering, and quiet. And he kissed her back. When they pulled apart, he didn't say goodbye, just gave a faint, wry smile. "Keep the lanterns warm." Then he vanished into the dark. The morning haze hung low over the Hidden Leaf village, casting a muted gray over the rooftops. Inside the Hokage Tower, Tsunade stood behind her desk, her arms crossed as she looked up at the young man before her. Naruto stood silently, clad in gray Anbu uniform, functional and stripped of unnecessary flair. It was suited for daytime operations, and like everything Naruto wore, it spoke more to practicality than appearance. His expression was calm, focused, unreadable. Tsunade slid a sealed scroll across the desk towards him. "This mission was requested by the Land of Grass. Surveillance only, but you know how these things can turn." Naruto nodded, once accepting the scroll with a gloved hand. "I'll be taking Moegi," he said simply, no hesitation in his voice. Tsunade didn't argue. She'd learned by now that when Naruto made up his mind, the best she could do was trust him, especially with the way he had been shaping Moegi lately. Quietly, personally, and with a level of focus that suggested this training meant something more to him than just preparing another shinobi. She watched him turn to leave. Watch your six out there. Naruto didn't look back. Always. At the front gates of the Hidden Leaf Village, Moegi was already waiting at the front gate when Naruto had arrived. Her short auburn hair was tucked neatly beneath her headband, and her eyes lit up when she saw him. She was dressed in the standard Chunin gear, though her stance mirrored the discipline Naruto had instilled into her. Behind her, Gurren stood against the outer wall, arms folded and her face unreadable. "You're really not going to say goodbye?" Gurren asked, raising an eyebrow as Naruto approached. He gave her a sideways glance and the faintest hint of a smirk. "Nope. Like you said, we both know I'm coming back." Gurren clicked her tongue and gave a half-hearted wave. Arrogant as ever. "Confident," Naruto corrected before giving Moegi a nod. "Let's move." Without another word, they vanished into the woods, leaving only the wind and Gurren's thoughtful silence behind. 1 hour later, village hidden in the grass, Naruto and Moegi landed softly atop the narrow ridge overlooking the grass village. The place below looked eerily intact, rooftops unbroken, market stalls in place, and the cobbled roads running perfectly straight between them. From this distance, it almost looked like a diorama, still, untouched, artificial. They descended cautiously. The closer they got, the more unsettling it became. The wind didn't stir. No bird song, no insects, not even the sound of wooden signs creaking on their hinges. Just an unbearable silence that felt more suffocating than peaceful. Naruto stopped. Moegi paused beside him, opening her mouth to speak, but Naruto raised a hand. He slowly reached into his pouch on his thigh and pulled out a black leather notepad. With quiet movement, he knelt down and began to write. Naruto's notepad entry read, "Moegi and I just arrived at the grass village, and immediately, something feels wrong, off. There isn't a single person in sight, and I don't mean quiet like an early morning market. I mean nothing. Even a corpse, no doors swinging open, no windows broken, nothing. But what's even stranger is what I do see. Everything is perfect, and not in a natural way. I'm talking precision, human precision. The streets are too clean, no stray leaves, no animal droppings, no trash, not even wind-disturbed dust. Even the dirt between the cracks of the stone paths look swept intentionally. There are no footprints, none, not even old ones. A village with no foot traffic? Not possible. It's like someone tried to erase every trace of life here, or worse, hide what was here. The smell is the final nail. The air carries something awful, a sharp, metallic scent of blood, but laced with something floral, pollen. It's confusing my senses, almost nauseating. Whatever this is, it's not natural. This place is staged." Naruto clicked the pen closed, returned the notepad to his pouch, and slowly rose to his feet. "Stay close," he murmured to Moegi. As they moved deeper into the village, the symptoms began to surface. It started subtle, a slight heaviness behind the eyes, a sluggishness in the limbs, then the pounding pressure in the head. Moegi stumbled slightly and Naruto swayed on his feet. His breathing turned shallow. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Genjutsu, a powerful one. That's when he heard it. A flute. A soft, eerie tune cutting through the still air like the whisper of a snake slithering in dead leaves. Genjutsu, he muttered through gritted teeth. Without hesitation, he grabbed Moegi by the shoulder and flared his chakra outward in a violent pulse. The world shimmered, distorted, and then shattered like cracked glass. Reality reasserted. The illusory perfection evaporated in an instant. Now, the village looked how it should have all along. Shattered buildings, blood smeared across stone, corpses missing organs, the smell of rot choked the air. Trees were blackened and brittle, as though drained of life. And standing ahead of them, where the village center should have been, were two figures. One was unmistakable, tall, pale, with weird eyes, and a smirk that belonged to someone who viewed humans as toys, Orochimaru. But his current host body, it was a woman with wild red hair, eyes narrowed in disdain, Tayuya's, and yet her body pulsed with something deeper. Those eyes that were weird, behind the iris swirled a pattern Naruto had never seen before. 6 rings rippling outward. The Rinnegan. Naruto's breath caught just for a second. What the hell is that? Beside Orochimaru stood a broad-shouldered man with a shark-like smile. A massive blade strapped to his back. Juzo Biwa, an A-rank missing ninja, formerly from Kiri, dangerous, brutal, and bloodthirsty. Naruto's mind raced. This wasn't just a surveillance mission. This was a setup. He glanced at Moegi. Too green, too young. This wasn't a fight she could survive. Moegi, he said calmly, eyes still locked on their enemies. Remember that deal we made when I agreed to train you? Moegi nodded hesitantly, her face pale. Well, now I need you to uphold your end. Naruto said, go. Get help. Don't stop until you're back in the village. Moegi's lip trembled, but she swallowed her fear. You better not die. I won't, he said flatly. She turned and ran. Juzo's smile widened, and he moved to intercept her. But before he 3 steps, Naruto was there, his foot connected with Juzo's chest in a violent kick, catching him and launching him back through a stone pillar. I'm your opponent, Naruto said coldly, stepping forward. Orochimaru, still smiling through Taiya's mouth, tilted his head in amusement. How delightful, he purred. Shall we begin? The storm was about to begin. The masked figure of Naruto Uzumaki stood his ground, the faintest tremble in his shoulders betraying his inner storm. His uniform, great Anbu gear suitable for daylight operations, clung to him like armor. Sweat already dampening the fabric beneath the tension of the coming battle. 2 kunai were reversed in his hands, the blades gleaming faintly under the muted light filtering through the trees. His stance was solid, trained, deadly, but his mind raced, not at the presence of Orochimaru or the infamous Juzo Biwa, but at the spiraling uncertainty of Orochimaru's Rinnegan. He had never seen it before, not in any scroll, not in any history book. A ripple patterned violet eye that seemed to drink in the world around it. Its capabilities were unknown, and unknowns were dangerous. He stared at the 2 figures through the slits of his Anbu mask, unmoving. It was a battle of silence and nerve until Juzo moved. The man lunged forward, executioner blade raised high. It was a weapon that once brought terror across nations, but here, now, Naruto recognized the slowness of Juzo's movement. He wasn't strong enough to wield it as effortlessly as Zabuza once had. In the blur of motion, Naruto pushed off the earth and created two clones. Mid-step, all three surged forward, Juzo fanning out in a trident formation. Juzo roared and brought the massive blade down, attempting to cleave through all three at once, but the swing dragged with weight and imprecision. The trio ducked in perfect sync, and all three kicked upward into Juzo's exposed torso, launching him airborne. Without pause, Naruto dismissed his kunai midair, allowing them to fall into their holsters. As he soared up with his clones, the familiar rhythm guided his motion. He initiated the Naruto Uzumaki barrage, landing punch after punch in rapid succession. But as he wound up for the final hit, Juzo twisted violently in midair. His body became a pendulum, momentum hurling the blade in a deadly arc. The clones dispersed with violent puffs of smoke, but the real Naruto had already anticipated the move. His hand churned with a surge of chakra. Rasengan! He slammed the glowing spear into the executioner blade, shattering the massive weapon into shards of steel that scattered across the battlefield. With seamless motion, he created a second Rasengan with his free hand and drove it into Juzo's chest with a brutal precision, slamming him into the earth in a lifeless heap. Naruto landed beside the body, breath coming in ragged bursts. A single drop of sweat rolled down his temple beneath the mask. From across the clearing, Orochimaru clapped slowly. My, that was quite impressive, he drawled, Rinnegan glinting like violet coals. You're more capable than I thought. You have my praise. Naruto didn't turn. Instead, he muttered coldly, This isn't a costume. It's a uniform. It's who I am, and you will respect it. Orochimaru chuckled, his voice slithering like oil. Oh, why of course. Respect it I shall. He vanished. Naruto barely caught the glint of motion before Orochimaru was upon him, a hand reaching for his throat. He twisted, raising his kunai and blocking the strike with a loud clang of metal on flesh. Naruto retaliated immediately, slashing at Orochimaru's face with his right kunai, but the snake signing was too fast. Orochimaru weaved around the strike, grinning. Naruto threw the shuriken in a sweeping arc. Orochimaru batted some of them aside lazily and ducked others. Naruto weaved a hand sign, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 10 clones erupted around him, charging Orochimaru all at once. But as they descended, the first clone connected, only for the body to poof instantly. A log. Orochimaru had already replaced himself and was now standing several meters away, hands tucked into his coat pocket. He began to whistle. A chilling, high-pitched melody filled the air. Naruto and his clones froze. It felt like knives in their ears. Searing and screeching pain burrowed through their skulls. The clones burst in rapid succession, overwhelmed by the auditory genjutsu. Naruto screamed, clutching his head. Blood trickled from his ears. Through the pain, he forced a hand down into his kunai pouch and flung it. The weapon cut through the air and forced Orochimaru to sidestep, breaking his whistling. Naruto stood shakily, already forming hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough. A powerful gust howled toward Orochimaru, tearing through branches and scattering debris. Orochimaru simply raised a hand, and the jutsu vanished, absorbed completely. Naruto stared in disbelief. He can absorb chakra-based jutsu? There was no time to think. He charged, forcing the fight of close quarters. Naruto opened with the 6-hit combination. Jab straight, elbow, spinning heel kick, hook, knee. Every strike cutting through the air where Orochimaru's body had just slipped away. He reset again, this time opening with another 6-hit striking combination. He spun into a spinning back fist, threw a body roundhouse, transitioned into a spinning back kick, followed by a question mark kick, and feinted a front kick just to throw a flying knee. Nothing landed. Orochimaru weaved through them all like smoke, and Naruto paid for it. He gasped as a rock-solid elbow buried itself into his gut. The force drove the air from his lungs, causing him to collapse forward. But before he could fall and hit the ground, Orochimaru raised a hand. Almighty push. His world exploded into pain. Naruto flew backwards, slamming into a tree with a sickening crack. One of his ribs had shattered. He had no time to recover. Universal pull. Naruto's body was jerked violently towards Orochimaru. Just as he reached him, Orochimaru delivered a brutal punch to his ribs. Another rib snapped, this time spearing into his lungs. Naruto screamed, his voice hoarse and wet with pain, as he flew through 4 trees before tumbling across the ground. Blood stained his mask. It fell from his face, cracking in half. He lay there gasping, broken, glaring up at the snake that towered over him with inhumane eyes. Orochimaru reached into his mouth and slowly drew his sword, its blade slick and dark. "I think it's time we stopped playing," he whispered. He stepped forward, but before he could bring the sword down, the ground beneath him burst open. Another Naruto lunged up from the earth, bloodied and battered, desperate, his kunai aiming for Orochimaru's neck in a final gambit. Orochimaru tilted his head. Slice! Naruto's body spun as he landed hard, a crimson spray erupting from his stump where his right arm used to be. He collapsed with a ragged scream, clutching at the bleeding wound. His vision blurred. Orochimaru raised his sword to finish it, and in that instant Naruto vanished, flickering out of existence in a body flicker just before the killing blow landed. Orochimaru's blade hissed through empty air. He smiled, tongue licking his lips. "Oh, Naruto-kun, I'll be seeing you again very soon." Scene change. Hokage's office, village hidden in the leaves. The doors to the Hokage's office slammed open with a violent bang that rattled the wooden frame. Moegi stumbled in, panting like a hunted animal, her flak jacket unzipped and stained with grime and dirt. Tsunade stood behind her desk, a quill in one hand and scroll in the other. Her sharp eyes immediately widened at the sight of the girl. "Moegi? What the hell?" she began, dropping the quill and marching around the desk. "He told me to run," Moegi gasped, collapsing to one knee and bracing herself with her hands and knees on the floor. "Naruto told me to run and get help. It was a trap. The mission was a goddamn trap." Shizune burst into the room right behind her, sensing the urgency. "Lady Tsunade!" Tsunade raised a hand, stopping Shizune before crouching beside Moegi. "Tell me everything. Where is Naruto? Why are you back? Alone?" Moegi coughed. When we got to the grass village, it was too quiet, too perfect. Everything was clean, too clean, like someone had set the stage and didn't want us to look too closely. No people, no animals, no tracks, no scent of life, only blood and pollen in the air. Something was wrong. Tsunade's eyes narrowed, her fists slowly clenching. Then Naruto realized we were in a genjutsu. It was so subtle. I didn't even feel the chakra until he snapped me out of it. Then that's when they appeared. "They?" Tsunade demanded, her voice sharp with rising dread. "Orochimaru, with some type of dojutsu, and Juzo Biwa, the executioner blade wielder." They were waiting for us, watching us. Naruto, her voice cracked. Naruto didn't think he could win. He told me to run and get help. I didn't want to go, but he ordered me. His voice, he was scared, not for himself, but that I'd die if I stayed. Tsunade stood and barked, Shizune, mobilize a squad. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Shizune vanished in a blur. Tsunade's voice dropped low, trembling with quiet fury. Hang on, Naruto, we're coming. Scene change. Forest outside the hidden grass village. A violent gust of wind announced Naruto's arrival on a high tree branch, the result of a desperation body flicker. He materialized just barely upright, only for his knees to give out immediately. He collapsed with a pained grunt, slamming back against the trunk of the tree. His right arm was gone, severed just below the shoulder. The blood flowed from the ragged stump like a leaking faucet. Crimson coated his flak jacket and his mask, which now dangled uselessly from the torn strap. His breathing was shallow and it was wheezy. He had a few broken ribs at the least. Blood trickled from his ears. Both of his drums were ruptured from Orochimaru's sinister whistling genjutsu. His left eye was swollen completely shut, and his body screamed with every minor movement. He looked around in panic, scanning the tree line with what little vision he had. No sign of Orochimaru, no flicker of movement, no twisted chuckle. He slumped down, nearly unconscious, and forced his trembling hand to reach into his thigh pouch. He pulled out a scroll sealed with the red marking, the emergency med kit that he always carried. He tried to undo it, but his fingers were sluggish and wet with blood. The scroll slipped from his grasp. Naruto's visible eye widened as he watched it fall, all the way down. 55 feet. The forest floor waited below like a silent predator. He chuckled bitterly. Of course. He leaned his head back and exhaled shakily. Hey, Nine Tails. He croaked aloud, too tired to establish a mental link. I don't know if you're there or awake, but I just need one thing from you. Silence. Then the sickly sound of bubbling chakra filled the air. Corrosive, burning chakra like molten metal spread over the stump of his right arm. He grit his teeth and bit back a scream as the Nine-Tails chakra cauterized the wound, stopping the blood loss. In a violent hiss of seared flesh, he slumped back against a tree, eyes fluttering. Thank you, Nine-Tails. He rose shakily to his feet. It took all the energy he had. 1 foot forward, a leap. His body was weak, but he had to keep moving. Foot. 3 thin kunai whistled through the air and embedded themselves into his left side with surgical precision. 2 pierced between his ribs. 1 lodged into his left lung. Naruto gasped and then collapsed again. He couldn't breathe. He clawed weakly at his side, mouth open, sucking in sharp, hissing breaths. A wheeze escaped every time he inhaled. He coughed, crimson sputtering past his lips. His vision blurred. The kunai had punctured his lung. Every second he stayed upright was agony. He lost his balance, and the branch betrayed him. He plummeted 55 feet. Naruto struck the forest floor with a bone-shattering crack, landing on his left side. The kunais were driven deeper into his flesh. His scream ripped through the trees, a raw, broken cry. He lay there, struggling. Every breath was a tortured wheeze. He rolled onto his back, trying to look upward, trying to fight the pull of unconsciousness. A shadow loomed over him. From the trees, Orochimaru stepped into the sunlight, calm and graceful, as if he were walking through a garden. His long tongue flicked past his lips in amusement. In his Renegon-filled eyes, there was only delight, like a child observing an ant squirm. Naruto glared up at him, teeth grit, face a mask of pain and defiance. Orochimaru crouched slightly, watching Naruto tremble. "Not much to respect after all," he murmured, his voice soft and cruel. He turned and walked away, leaving Naruto on the forest floor, alone, bleeding, and dying. But guys, I'm going to end it off right there. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. But without further ado, I am out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay blessed, y'all.